Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin is still bouncing from my exact level of support in the short term, while the Bitcoin dominance continues to pull back, which is good news for the altcoin market, at least while this is happening. But Ethereum is still currently flashing a major warning signal that we need to pay attention to, while the price of Chainlink is experiencing another massive bullish breakout above this key level on the price chart, but also still possibly forming a larger warning signal. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, starting off on the weekly Bitcoin price chart, and the super trend indicator is still sitting in the green, indicating a larger bull market. But of course, on this weekly Bitcoin price chart, we still have higher highs confirmed in the price of Bitcoin and lower highs confirmed in the weekly Bitcoin RSI, which is of course a bearish divergence. And usually a bearish divergence signifies that we're losing bullish momentum. In other words, relative to this weekly time frame here, over the next few months or so, it's likely we'll see a lack of bullish momentum and perhaps a bit more of a cool off in the price. So that might mean either a large sideways consolidation or perhaps a bit more of a pullback within the next few months or so. Obviously not a short-term signal. And so like I've been saying recently over the last few days, over the last couple of weeks, maybe near the end of August, later this month, but most likely around September, maybe even around October, we could see potentially a larger pullback or a larger slowdown of some sort in the price of Bitcoin, once again within the next couple of months or so. But of course, looking at this 3-day Bitcoin price chart, at least for now, we're still kind of lacking momentum to either direction in the price of Bitcoin relative to the 3-day time frame here in the 3-day Bitcoin MACD. And so obviously, if you're looking at very small time frames like the 1-minute chart or the 1-hour chart, these short-term moves look like very larger moves. But if we're zooming out here to the 3-day time frame, obviously we could see we're still lacking momentum to either direction. So yes, we could see short-term bearish moves, short-term bullish moves, just basically bouncing around sideways, still lacking momentum on the larger time frame. So we're not necessarily experiencing major bullish or major bearish moves, at least right now on these larger time frames, because we're simply lacking the momentum. And so what this means is that moving forward in the shorter term, no matter if we see another little bounce here or another breakdown here, no matter what happens in the short term, it's unlikely we'll see a significant move right now on the larger timeframes. And if we're taking a look at the daily Bitcoin price chart, of course, we still have an active bearish divergence to watch out for, which is technically confirmed on the daily Bitcoin price chart between these two highs in the price and the RSI. Once again, higher highs in the price confirmed and lower highs confirmed in the daily Bitcoin RSI. And so what this means is essentially the same thing as the bearish divergence on the weekly time frame, but of course on the daily time frame, rather than talking about the next couple of months or so, it's talking about maybe the next 1 or 2 weeks as a very likely scenario in terms of lacking bullish momentum. So yes, we could see little short-term bounces, but don't expect significant bullish momentum straight towards the upside like this, for example, at least within the next 1 or 2 weeks as a likely scenario based on this bearish divergence. And as for support and resistance to watch out for relative to the daily time frame, we have strong resistance in the lower 120k area, so in between roughly 120,000 to 123,000 in this area right here. Obviously, we have strong resistance for the price of Bitcoin, which I've been saying since before even we rejected back here. And as for support, we have a lot of support based on this support right here, also coming into play right here, sitting at around 117,000. And below that, the next significant level of support on the daily time frame is at around 112,000. And if we're zooming into the shorter term, looking at the 8-hour Bitcoin price chart, obviously, once again, we have that key level of support I've been talking about here on the channel since before we even hit this level. And of course, once again, that's sitting at around 117,000. So continue to expect a lot of support at around 117,000, like I've been saying here on the channel. And obviously, over the last few days, we have been finding support and experiencing at least a little bit of a short-term bounce from this level. But once again, despite seeing this short-term bounce running into this level of support just here in the immediate short term, technically we still have this bearish divergence confirmed on the 8-hour time frame, and once again the bearish divergence on the daily time frame and the bearish divergence on the weekly time frame. So multiple bearish divergences here, all pointing towards a lack in bullish momentum as a very likely scenario. As always, no such thing as a guarantee. I'm not guaranteeing anything, but it's unlikely that at least over the next few days or possibly weeks, we'll see a significant bullish high momentum movement towards the upside. But obviously at the same time as saying that, while we're running into this support, yes, we can experience maybe just a slight bounce from this support, but not necessarily massive momentum towards the upside. So like I've been saying over the last few days, that is a very likely scenario in the short term, and obviously over the last 1 to 2 days has been playing out very nicely. But if we actually confirm candle closes below 117,000, then the next shorter term level of support that I'll be watching is based on this previous low right here, this previous support, which was also resistance right here, and that's sitting at just above 115,000. So in between around 115,000 to 115.5k, in that area right around there, I would expect support for the price of Bitcoin if, of course, we first break below 117,000 with confirmation, so candle closes below that level. And if we break both of these levels here, once again, we have a lot more support at around 112,000. But as for short-term resistance to watch out for, like I said, we have a lot of resistance, especially at around 120,000, starting at 120,000. But just before that, we also could find a bit of short-term resistance here at just above 119,000, so around 119.1k approximately, as another short-term level of resistance to watch out for. And in terms of trading Bitcoin right now, personally, I'm not currently in any new trade because, of course, if you've been watching my videos over the last 1 to 2 weeks or so, you'll know that roughly around here, I entered a Bitcoin long position. At one point, roughly around here was a $1 million Bitcoin long position, and overall, I simply secured roughly $30,000 out of that Bitcoin long position here, longing this bullish move towards the upside. But since then, obviously a couple of days ago now, I've been out of that Bitcoin long position due to this latest drop right here and the confirmation of this bearish divergence. And even though, yes, we could see little short-term bounces due to the fact that we're unlikely going to see significant bullish momentum right now due to these bearish divergences technically confirmed, right now I'm not really looking to open a massive new high leverage long position because there's not really the same opportunity right now for a long position compared to what we saw back here, which I shared on the channel back then a bit over a week ago now. As always, not financial advice, I'm just letting you know what I'm looking at. But as I've also been saying here on the channel, if we confirm candle closes at a break below 117,000 here, in that situation, I may look at possibly opening a new short position, maybe for Bitcoin or maybe for some other altcoins. And of course, if I do that, I will let you know about it here on the channel. But for now, we've not yet confirmed a break below this support. Obviously, we're still finding support at this level, currently experiencing a slight bounce, which means right now we don't also have the confirmation for a short position. So overall, once again, I'm just simply waiting for that next trading opportunity to actually confirm. And so if you haven't done so already, definitely make sure you're set up ready to go on a crypto exchange in order to take that next trading opportunity as soon as that happens. Of course, if you want to actually trade crypto, and personally, I'm taking a lot of my crypto trades over on BTNX, so I'll make sure to leave a link to BTNX below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can claim some massive bonuses and also enter into a 25,000 USD prize pool here just by trading crypto. So for example, if you trade with large volumes or if you have a decent P&L profit, basically percentage profit here, or if you're a new user, etc. There's multiple ways where you can actually get a major share in this $25,000 prize pool as a massive prize pool that's only available using that link. So essentially it's free money from the exchange just by trading crypto, but once again, only if you use that link. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, or preparing to take the next trading opportunity, you might as well get set up ready to go using that first link below this video to take advantage of these major bonuses here. And in case you're wondering, BTNX is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And for whatever reason, if you don't want BTNX as an exchange, there's also Pinex as another exchange out there that I also trade on. So I'll also make sure to leave a link to Pinex below this video. If you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can also claim some major bonuses. Like for example, if you simply just make an account using that link, which takes about 60 seconds to do this, and then complete KYC, you get a $50 bonus onto your Pinex account just by making an account using that link and completing KYC. And you can also get some major deposit bonuses here. For example, if you deposit just $100, you get a $100 bonus, free money from the exchange onto your Pinex account, which you can use to actually trade these futures grid bots here over on Pinex. And then if you deposit up to $10,000, you get a $1,000 bonus onto your Pinex account. Once again, free money from the exchange, which you can use to trade over on Pinex, but only if you use that link. If if you don't use that link below this video to Pinex, you cannot claim any of these bonuses here. And in case you're wondering, yes, you can trade on Pinex without KYC as well. But with that being said, taking a look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, and right now we still have liquidity building to the downside, sitting at around 115,000, just above 115,000. So obviously that is still a price target to watch out for the price of Bitcoin. But obviously between the current price and just above 115,000, we still have that level of support here at around 117,000. And so if for whatever reason we see another slight little pullback here, continue to expect support at around 117,000. And then once again, only if we confirm a break with candle closes below that level, then in that situation, the next target would be at around 115,000 to 115.5k, which is once again based on this liquidity and also based on the fact that I'd also expect support at around that area on the price chart if we first break below 117,000. But while the price of Bitcoin is experiencing this slight little bounce here in the short term, while this is happening for Bitcoin, if we're looking at the Bitcoin dominance chart on the 3-day time frame, just now as of recording this video, the Bitcoin dominance is once again creating some lows here just below the previous lows that we set a couple of days ago. So obviously we're continuing the pullback in the Bitcoin dominance, which is good news for the altcoin market. A lot of the major altcoins will of course do a bit better, perform a bit better than what Bitcoin is doing if the Bitcoin dominance is dumping, is essentially what that means. And so if you're an altcoin holder or an altcoin trader, if you're bullish on altcoins, this is what you want to see in the Bitcoin dominance. You want the Bitcoin dominance to be bearish because once again, that is good news for altcoins. So while this is happening, once again, very good for altcoins. And we're seeing that right now with Ethereum experiencing another slight little recovery in the shorter term from where it was around 1 or 2 days ago. But for now, we're still in between two very significant areas on the price chart. First of all, we have this previous very significant area of resistance, which I'd now expect acting as new support if the price would actually get back to that area. And that's sitting in between around 3.9k to 4.1k. And as for resistance, I'll be watching around 4.8k to 4.9k based on the previous all-time high still acting as a resistance. And basically, while the price of ETH is still holding above this previous significant area of resistance, now acting as new support at roughly 4,000 give or take, while the price is still above this level, we're still looking very bullish when we're talking about the larger price structure or the longer term trend for Ethereum. Once again, we can see little short-term pullbacks and things like that along the way, but the much larger price structure is still currently bullish while we're holding above that level. Of course, if we confirm, say, a weekly candle close back below, say, 3.9k, in that situation, that'll be a significant change in price structure for the bearish direction. But for now, that has not happened. So for now, the price structure on the larger timeframes still looking very much bullish. And if we're taking a look at the daily Ethereum price chart, once again, right now in the immediate short term, we're experiencing a slight little bounce in the short term for Ethereum against the US dollar, because once again, we're seeing a continued pullback in the Bitcoin dominance while Bitcoin is holding up a little bit here in the short term, currently experiencing a slight bounce. So once again, if Bitcoin is experiencing a slight bounce and the Bitcoin dominance is pulling back, meaning altcoins are doing a bit better than what Bitcoin is doing, obviously that's going to cause a bit of a short-term bounce for Ethereum against the US dollar, along with a lot of other altcoins in the short term currently experiencing short-term bounces. And so like I've said in recent videos here on the channel, even though yes, we've technically just recently confirmed this new bearish divergence, a warning signal to watch out for on the daily Ethereum price chart, even though this has happened, I'd not necessarily short Ethereum right now until ideally we see a bit more confirmation, like for example, a break to the downside here in the price of Bitcoin below 117,000. I'd wait for some more signals like that, for example, to be a bit more confident in maybe taking a short position. So for now, like I said in my last video, I'm not currently in a short position. That's just a possible trading opportunity, basically, if we see a bit more confirmation and some more bearish momentum picking up. And of course, the last couple of times we saw a bearish divergence confirm on the daily Ethereum price chart, first of all, we saw one right here, very small bearish divergence between these highs in the price and these lower highs here in the RSI. And ultimately, we saw a pullback of just under 1 week, close to 1 week worth of a pullback here. And the time before that was this one that confirmed around mid-June. And we saw close towards roughly a 2-week pullback in the price of Ethereum. And so once again, technically speaking, not guaranteed, but the most likely scenario from a bearish divergence is that we're likely going to see just a slowdown, a lack in bullish momentum for roughly 1 or 2 weeks is a very likely scenario. So that could just be a bit of a sideways consolidation like this, or a further pullback within the next 1 or 2 weeks is a very likely scenario. Once again, not guaranteed, but likely based on this bearish divergence. And if we're taking a look at ETH BTC on the daily time frame, Ethereum versus Bitcoin, obviously with the Bitcoin dominance pulling back further, this is causing another short-term bounce for ETH BTC, because if the Bitcoin dominance is pulling back, Bitcoin is losing market share, which means altcoins are slightly outperforming Bitcoin, which is exactly what this chart means. If this chart is bullish, it means Ethereum is outperforming Bitcoin. And so this is why I've been saying recently here on the channel, if we were to say short Ethereum, I'll be keeping a close eye on what Bitcoin and especially the Bitcoin dominance is doing as very strong and reliable indicators for what we should be expecting in the altcoin market. Because if Bitcoin is still holding above this support as it is doing right now, while we're seeing a pullback in the Bitcoin dominance, don't expect a massive crash for a lot of the altcoin market while Bitcoin and the Bitcoin dominance is doing this. And so at least for now, while that is the situation for Bitcoin and the Bitcoin dominance, that essentially means that Ethereum should be kind of lacking momentum to either direction just in the shorter term. We're talking about the next couple of days or possibly weeks here, because obviously the bearish divergence tells us we should not necessarily expect significant bullish momentum, and we're likely going to see a bit of a cool off in the bullish momentum just for the shorter term once again, but not necessarily experiencing a major crash due to those reasons I just said with Bitcoin and the Bitcoin dominance. But of course, these bearish divergences here for ETH USD and ETH BTC are still some possible warning signals to pay attention to, and it is possible if ETH BTC heads a little bit higher, we may end up temporarily invalidating this bearish divergence if we create a new higher high in the price here, which basically means it would have to potentially reconfirm a new bearish divergence later on with a new higher high put in place in the price, and then it would have to reconfirm a lower high potentially if we're still forming lower highs in the RSI for ETH BTC, Ethereum versus Bitcoin on this daily time frame. And if we're taking a look at the price of Solana on the 2-day time frame, Solana is once again testing this key area of resistance here, sitting in between around $190 to $200. And obviously for quite some time now, this has been acting as very strong resistance for the price of Solana. And so obviously if the price of Solana confirms a breakout with at least a candle close on the daily time frame, ideally a 2-day candle close here, considering we're on the 2-day time frame, confirming above $200, and then especially of course if we hold above this area, hold it as new support, in that situation that would be extremely bullish for Solana. And of course I'd expect a continuation of this larger bullish trend here towards the next major Fibonacci level, which is sitting at around $230 as the next major price target if we first confirm a breakout above 200. And so obviously that's a possible trading opportunity on the table here. As always, once again, not currently confirmed and not financial advice, but if we confirm the breakout here from roughly 200 to 230, give or take, that's roughly a 15% move towards the upside with no leverage. So once again, a possible trading opportunity here. For example, a 10x leverage long position, that would be around a 150% profit in that example, not financial advice. But obviously, while the price of Solana is still currently just testing this area of resistance, not yet confirmed the breakout, there is still a possible risk of another rejection here, like what we've seen many times recently here, obviously for the price of Solana. But if we were to see another short-term rejection, still expect a lot of support at just above 180, so around 180 to 182, and below that we have some major support at roughly 167. And if we're taking a look at the price of XRP on the weekly time frame, we still technically have that massive bearish divergence still confirmed on the weekly XRP price chart, with higher highs in the price and lower highs confirmed in the weekly XRP RSI. And so once again, as I've already been saying since almost the all-time high at roughly $3.40, I've been saying it's likely that over the coming weeks or possibly months, at least for the next 1 or 2 months, is a very likely scenario, we're likely going to see a larger slowdown for the price of XRP, possibly a larger pullback within the next couple of months or so. I'm talking maybe later this month, especially around September, maybe even October. That sort of time frame, it's likely we could potentially see a bit more of a pullback or a larger slowdown in the price. Once again, more of a longer term signal, not a short term signal. And if we're taking a look at the daily XRP price chart, as I said in my last video, it's likely we're just going to sort of bounce around a little bit within this sideways price range. And usually after a volatile move like this, either towards the upside or towards the downside, downside, we usually just settle a little bit in the immediate short term. So like I said yesterday, I'd not be surprised if in another 1 or 2 days from now, the price is still at roughly 310 to 320, give or take. But really, the larger sideways price range is this area right here, in between roughly 290 to 340 as a major sideways price range, which we are currently in. And of course, I would expect a lot of support at around $2.90 to $3 as an area of support here, and a lot of resistance at around $3.35 to $3.40. And only if we see a confirmed breakout with daily candle closes confirming above ideally $3.40 and actually holding above this level, only in that situation we can actually start calling for more bullish price structure. Obviously that'll be a change in price structure, a breakout above this high. That'll be very bullish in terms of the trend or the larger momentum for the price of XRP. But while the price is still below, especially that $3.40 level, technically the larger price structure is still looking quite similar to what we saw back here, as we could see around January entering into February, almost into March this year, basically earlier in the year, still looking quite similar to what we're seeing right now if we're looking at the larger price structure, not just the short-term moves. And so if eventually the price at some stage breaks below around $3.90, in that situation, the next key support to watch out for is at around $2.75, and below that we have some major support, a significant area in between around $2.56 to $2.62. But once again, just in the immediate short term for the next few days, it's likely the price will just remain within this bit of a sideways price range here on the daily XRP price chart. And if we're taking a look at the price of Chainlink on the daily time frame, obviously Chainlink is experiencing a major new breakout above this significant level on the price chart, this Fibonacci level here, which was sitting at just above $24. So in between roughly $24 to $25, which was an area of resistance over the last few days or so. And to be completely honest with you, I was expecting a little bit more of a cool off like this before maybe we see a continuation later on at some point. To be completely honest, I wasn't expecting this move as soon as what we are seeing it right now. But with that being said, now that we're breaking out above $24 to $25, like I've been saying here on the channel, if we ultimately break out above $24 to $25, the next target would be these highs right here, which is sitting at just underneath $27. So at around $26.70 to $27, roughly around there, is the next price target in the short term for the price of Chainlink. And so it's possible we could start finding some resistance, start to struggle a little bit at closer towards $27. But if, of course, we break out above $27 with confirmation, so ideally candle closes above that level, in that situation, the next major price target would be these highs that we set all the way back in December 2024. So if we're looking at the candle closes, that's sitting at around $29.30, or if we're looking at the candle wick highs, that's sitting at almost $31. So at roughly $30, give or take, would be the next major price target if we first break out above around $27 as the first price target right now, just under $27. And clearly, like I've been saying for a while, the longer term or the larger price structure, the larger trend right now for the price of Chainlink is still very much bullish. So obviously we can see rejections from certain points of resistance along the way like this. But if we're looking at the highs and the lows, for example, we're still seeing higher lows and higher highs, still technically within a larger bullish trend. And as for support, if we see another little pullback or rejection of some sort for the price of Chainlink, I now expect a lot of support in between $24 to $25. And of course, if we break back below that level, more support closer towards $20 to $21. And recently we bounced from very close to $21 based on this previous rejection here. But it is worth mentioning that, of course, despite this latest bullish move in the price of Chainlink and breaking out above $24 to $25, obviously the price is obviously making a new higher high, but we're still technically forming lower highs in the daily Chainlink RSI, which is something at least worth pointing out, because obviously this means that, yes, the previous bearish divergence is now effectively invalidated now that we're seeing a breakout in the price, but we could still be forming a new bearish divergence, which could maybe confirm in another few days from now, or in maybe a week from now, with just a new higher high confirmed in the price at some point. And then, of course, still lower highs, still currently forming, not yet confirmed, but this may end up confirming maybe in another few days, or once again in around a week from now, as a likely scenario that we need to consider. But once again, we now effectively have to reconfirm this bearish divergence again. So right now, overall, we're still looking bullish, still with these next price targets in play once again. And so those are the key levels that I'm watching for the price of Chainlink, and possible trading opportunities to consider. If we break a certain level, trade from that level towards the next level. Not financial advice, but for Chainlink, of course, that's been working out very well. If we break out above a key level, simply place a long, trade towards the next level, take a bit of profits at the next level. If we break break that level, trade long, and take profits towards the next level as the next price target, so on and so forth. Once again, not financial advice. And remember, if you want to trade any of these moves in the price of any crypto, get set up ready to go using those links below this video to those exchanges if you want to claim those massive bonuses that are only available using those links. And if you want to actually know how you can trade crypto no matter what the price is doing, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.